to our February 14th Valentine's Day meeting of the Remote Learning Commission. It's all because we love working together. So we have that to celebrate today. But thank you for being here. And we want to get started. Just want you to know that we're missing our extraordinary facilitator today. Ingrid is not here, but she's got a good reason to be out. Ingrid is a grandma today with a nice new bouncy baby girl that she is so excited about today. So she's allowed to have the day to celebrate. So she's not here with us today. So with Irene, Ajit and myself, we'll all be facilitating as we go through our meeting today. So again, thank you for being here. You have the agenda that was sent out to you, so we're gonna dig right in. I know a few people are still joining us, so maybe I'll give that another few seconds here so folks can come in and get situated. All right, so with that, why don't we go ahead, Irene, we have the roll call. Is Maddie doing that for us?
Correct. Yes, Maddie, when you're ready.
Okay. Dr. Karen DuBois Walton.
Good afternoon, I'm on.
Thank you. Dr. Charles Dumais.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Michelle Levy.
I'm here.
Thank you. Lon Seidman.
I'm here.
Thanks. Ed Klonowski.
Here.
Thank you. Doug Casey.
Afternoon, everybody.
Kate Diaz. Kate Diaz. Thought I heard something for a second there. Okay. Fran Rabinowitz.
I'm here.
Glad to see you're home again, Fran.
Yeah.
Tim Larson. Tim Larson. Okay. Roseanne O'Brien Vojek.
Hi.
Thank you. Amy Wiltsey. Amy Wiltsey, I see a.
I'm here.
There she is. I see her name there. Dr. Evelyn Robles Rivas. Dr. Evelyn Robles Rivas. Okay. Oh, I see Kate trying to get in here. Catherine Gabrielson.
I'm here.
Thank you. And Lauren Mancini Everett.
I'm here.
Great. And Kate, did you get in the room here? We just did roll call.
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. So the only two people I have missing are Tim Larson and Dr. Robles Rivas. And there she comes. Look at that. So just Executive Director Larson. Okay, Commissioner, all set.
All right, thank you very much. While you were all coming in, I shared that Ingrid Kennedy is not here today. Ingrid is a grandma of a new baby girl today, so she's allowed to go out and enjoy that, so she's not here with us today. Another announcement I just want to make to this group as well, and I'm pleased to announce for those of you that may have missed it, that Dr. DuBois Walton has been on our Remote Learning Commission representing the State Board of Education. She is now in the role in the chair of our State Board of Education. So I wanted to make that announcement here so you are aware that not only do you have board representation here, but you now have the chair of our board that is on the Remote Learning Commission. So wanted that to be known. All right, so we're going into accepting the minutes. That was sent out, so do we have agreement on the minutes or any changes? I'll give some a pause here so you can raise your hand for any announcement or change, requested change, or just a thumbs up for we're good to go and we have consent on the minutes. I see thumbs up, thumbs up. All right, awesome. Thank you very much. So our minutes are accepted. All right, Irene, I'm turning this over to you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd just like to review our meeting objectives briefly. We will be reviewing and to provide any final feedback on the revised draft standards for remote learning. We will also engage in our group work assignments to really get at the task and purpose of the Remote Learning Commission. And in that conversation that Ajit and I will help facilitate, we will be able to identify additional topics, potential guests, and any kind of follow-up as needed. What we would like to do right now is share with you the updated version of the Connecticut standards for remote learning. And what I'll do is I'm going to share my screen, Commissioner. Okay, let me just move things around here.
And while Irene is doing that, I'll just say to you, thank you again for all your input as we're moving forward quickly. As you know, we're doing that as well. We've had a lot of thanks to Irene, Ajit, other stakeholder engagement. So I think what we wanted to do today is to just kind of share with you based on your input and those that we've received where we are, so we can go final and have this out, as we know folks are looking for them. As well they should. So we want to move those along. Also recognizing, as we do with our documents here, they're never locked in, completely. And so we will also continue as folks are thinking about implementation. If there's any continued refinement necessary, we will certainly continue to do that.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. And also to add to that, since our meeting on the 24th of January, we did engage in 3 different stakeholder feedback sessions. We did distribute the Qualtrics survey, which many of you contributed to, and know that all of the feedback was reviewed. And hopefully now you'll be able to see yourself and see your guidance and insight embedded into the latest version of the document. What I have up right now is just a reminder of why Connecticut standards. Why do we need standards for remote learning? So this is just a reminder to the outline in the statute. And how we developed them, again, just a reminder that we engaged many folks as well as research and different groups to help inform the design and the language of the standards. And you'll notice that we did talk with students. We also did the survey as well as the stakeholder engagement series, and you are part of that work as well. So since we last met, what we have done is added the related guidance. We heard loud and clear. How will this happen? What does this mean for implementation? What kind of guidance will we provide? So the standards design still has the domain overview, as well as the set of related standards. And now we have added related guidance to each domain. Visually, what that looks like in this particular graphic is that overall the remote learning standards, and by domain and the related standards, and right next to it is the related guidance, and an actual view of that looks like this. So the reason why we went in a landscape version is so that users can see the standards and the guidance right next to each other. And that from a user experience, this will help facilitate the design, the thinking, as well as the implementation of the remote learning standards. What I'd like to do is share with you a little bit more of what these standards look like and the related guidance. So you will notice that we're trying to acknowledge everyone in this space that have provided us with guidance, as well as the scope of this. We heard loud and clear, well, what does the design look like? So we tried to provide scenarios of what districts can do in the implementation of these standards.
Could you make it a little bit larger? I know I saw some notes in there. And Kate, no, you do not have that. I know folks were working on it up to just a few minutes ago to get to this point.
Right. Hopefully that's large enough. Background and overview, and connecting back to existing use of online learning, including the definition, which came out of the latest special session. And then we get into the description of the remote learning standards. And again, I'm going to go past this section for a moment, that you'll see as the domains start, there is that overview, the detailed overview, and then every standard looks the same with the standard and the related guidance. And what you'll notice in this guidance is that there are specific examples or practices that could be considered by districts, by educators, and other staff that are supporting that, the creation of that remote learning environment. I'm going to go back up because this is another important piece that we heard loud and clear. What is the role of the student, the parent, the administrators and educators, all guardians in this work? So I'm going to stop sharing and pause for a moment. See if there's some thoughts, or the Commissioner, if you wanted to add anything else to that, or even Ajit, because Ajit was with me as well in creating this revised version.
Irene, I'm not sure maybe you did, but to the bold text,
good point.
I think that's an important consideration here, given some of the feedback we had the last time. So,
yes, thank you for that. So this group and others said, well, how do we prioritize? Can we reduce the number of standards? And we believe that it is important to come out strong with a strong set of standards. So what we have done in looking at all of the research, as well as position statements, state board approved standards, and other research guiding us in this work, we have bolded at a minimum 5 standards in each of the domains. And so you'll see that here in this example for standard 1, that these are bolded. We chose intentionally not to lump the bolded ones at the top and then the unbolded ones towards the bottom, because we really want to push through all of the standards so that we are creating the best remote learning environment. But we took your feedback to heart. And so you'll notice that in each domain, there are bolded standards, and that's articulated at the top, the importance of paying attention or prioritizing the bolded standards in the design of a remote learning environment, and that the unbolded standards should be considered and provide that supplement information. Ajit, I don't know if I missed anything there.
No, I think your point is important, that while some of these standards may be good teaching, standards that may be found somewhere else, we felt it was just important to articulate the full picture in these standards, but highlight the elements for you, as Irene was saying, that might be most pertinent in a remote learning environment, calling them to attention by bolding them. So I think that makes sort of the standards you need to sort of first look at far fewer, while having the other standards right there so that you could see that, yes, you need to pay attention to these bolded ones for sure, but the other things are, you're probably already doing them, but don't forget, those are still there. So I think maybe that's a way to think about it.
Thank you for that reminder. So again, we can pause there for a moment. Open it up for questions.
So I know you don't have the document in front of you, and which I see your hand, Lon, but what Irene is explaining is kind of the work that was done based on all the feedback, and getting to that point. And so based on our explanation, what questions do you still have on that? And I know there's a hand raised. Lon?
Thank you. I was just curious if I was going to ask this last week, but I got into a dead zone on my car. Is there any contemplation to inter-district agreements in regards to how remote learning could work, or is that something that would just be part of regular statute?
So are you asking for, I'm sorry, Commissioner, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so you're talking specific to remote learning and whether districts could partner with others in doing that. I don't think there's nothing that prohibits that. As a matter of fact, I think there is an existing statute that allows that kind of work to happen, not specific to remote learning, but that level of collaboration across districts absolutely permitted.
So I wonder if, because I know the state statute that enabled this this requirement for recommendations mentioned a local board of education and a regional board of education. And that statute 10-158A, which allows for cooperative agreements, is often added to local, regional, or cooperative agreement under 10-158A. That might be important language to suggest when crafting whatever we do here, just to allow districts that are collaborating or perhaps collaborating to create an online school together. That might be something just to enable that thought process a little bit.
Thank you. Fran?
A couple of things. I just want to thank you for bolding the standards, because I was one that thought that it could be overwhelming to have all of those standards. And yet I'm pleased that you didn't lose them, but you're drawing attention to the ones that you think are most important in each of the domains. I'm anxious to have a look at the document. I like the idea of guidance being in there as well. I think that always helps when districts are developing and designing their own programs. The standards are one thing, and certainly they're important, but guidance around the standards is also very important. So I look forward to being able to review that. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. And you know, the continued reminder that the first utilization here is for students in grade 9 through 12. I know we have this track going, right? Because there is thinking about a school K-12, and then but the initial, this guidance is guiding what folks would be doing for 9 through 12 in the next school year. And I'm sure that we're going to come back as we think about kind of the bigger picture of what we're working on, that we'll continue to mind these in this process as well. So I know we're doing these, feel like two things that we're working on, but that is the immediate and hence the eagerness for folks to take a look at them. And so we're getting a lot of requests like, where are the standards right now. Let's see. Kate, your hand's raised.
I just was wondering when we will get a copy, because I love the format and the what you've explained. Big fan of guidance always, but I just was wondering when we would be able to see it.
Great question, and I'm looking at my colleagues here as we're managing timeline. So, you know, this is great when you're doing this remote meeting, because we can't kick each other under the table and say, don't say that. So making an administrative decision here, Irene, that if we send them out like right as the meeting is over, because that is kind of promise us that within a day you're going to come get back to us. So if there's any major thing in there that we need to address, that we will do that, because really we're trying to get this out. I would say by the end of the week, we'd like to have them done. And from a design perspective, what you're going to get from Irene is just a Word document and things are bolded. But from a design perspective, I'm sure that our graphic designer will make them look much nicer and find other ways to call out those bolded areas. But Irene will just send you a Word document. And if you could just immediately take a look at that for us and get back to us, that would be really great. And so we will do that. So see, Irene, I just did that. I made an administrative decision because I know everybody wants to take a look at them, but we're also trying to be responsive to folks who are already doing their planning and want to see what the standards are. So if you can get right back to us, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I think Kathy Gabrielson might be next.
Thank you. I want to apologize for missing the last meeting. I was having a little surgery, so I wasn't able to be here, and I wasn't a part of the conversations on that day. The question that I have, is there anything in the standards that either promotes or prohibits students with disabilities from accessing a remote learning program or sharing or accessing, as Lon just alluded to, accessing services remotely that might be located in another district in order to meet the requirements of the IEP. Given the staffing shortages that we're all facing right now, being able to remote into another district to access services and supports could become a very helpful tool.
Yeah, I guess I'll just jump in, and Irene, you should feel free to jump in too. I don't believe there is anything that prohibits it or explicitly promotes it per se. I think what we do say is that the decision to access remote learning should be a collaborative decision of the student, the parent guardian, the educator, the school. That it has to be a collaborative decision. It's not a unilateral choice of any one party. And I think that's there for good reason. And so that's kind of what we say. So if I can imagine, if the PPT makes that decision, then I think that would that to me would be that representation, and that decision obviously has to be implemented. So there's nothing in the guidance that would preclude or prohibit that type of arrangement or partnership.
Is there some way that a statement could be made indicating that inclusion of students with disabilities, I hate to say that it needs to be made, but that a PPT decision could serve in that function? You know, my experience has been, if it isn't clearly stated that it applies to students with disabilities as well, people do not always assume that it does. And I think it needs to be very clearly brought out.
I believe the guidance does speak to the standards, and the guidance do speak to these applying to all students,
Okay.
and particularly calls out students with disabilities, English learners. So I think that is definitely in there.
All right, thank you.
No
Yes.
problem.
Yeah, specifically domain 8 does call it out, as well as in domain, it's actually a thread throughout, as Ajit just shared.
Evelyn?
Evelyn, yes.
Just a clarifying question, Commissioner. So we'll receive the document, we'll review it, and then whether we have revisions or not, should we send you at least an email responding, just to make sure that you have a consensus for all of us, saying that we review it and there's no, so we can move forward, right? Is that okay?
That is absolutely okay. So Irene will send it out, and we take thumbs up and whatever works, smiley faces, whatever, yes. So you can just let us know that's there. As I said, it will be moving quickly. And so if you can do that for us immediately, that would be great.
I think, Fran, I'm not sure if it's a holdover or a new hand.
No, it was a new hand.
Okay.
Just two quick questions. Number one, to Lon's point, there's nothing prohibiting now. I just want to be sure that, let's say, Old Saybrook and Waterford want to work together on world language, and one's offering Arabic, one's offering Mandarin. The children in Old Saybrook can remote into Waterford and vice versa, correct? And there's not an issue with that?
I don't see one. I think that would be definitely possible. Again, it'll go back to the local board. As long as the local boards are okay, I think that's absolutely the kinds of things that could come up through this process. Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to be really sure on that, because there's an awful lot of interest in that.
Did you want to add something, Irene?
I did, and I think that's part of our future, right? We have this as we agree that this is an opportunity. What I would also add, though, that in the design of that and in the creation of that type of partnership and experience for students, that then the standards are even more so understood on both sides and all
Yes.
of those adults impacting that student, because there's a lot in there. And so, yeah, I'm just that word of that caveat that the standards are even so much more important in the design of something that is a collaborative across districts, because that student can get lost in that partnership. So it's important that all adults are on the same page.
I agree with you, Irene, and that's why I'm thrilled to have the standards. And my second one is probably getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but once the standards are accepted and are moving forward, I'm certain you're already thinking about this, but webinars are going to be so incredibly important, because what I'm seeing right now is, I mean, I work mostly with superintendents, but people are overwhelmed and they're not reading everything and reading thoroughly. And I think there's nothing like hearing it and having the document at the same time and talking about what that looks like. And it probably will need to be a series or something, but it's just, I just see so much good work not happening sometimes, or not being understood and embraced by school districts, because they're just not aware of it, because it's in writing. And I'm just finding, I get very frustrated because I send things out and I say, well, I sent that to you. And they'll say, oh, could you send it again? So I just know that the delivery of something this important is going to be really paramount to its success.
Right.
I know you already know that.
No, but no, totally agree. So we will certainly have a communication plan that will include PD, and we'll use the technology that allows us. We've been doing a lot of, Irene has developed a lot of playlists, that we record things and folks that folks can get at their own convenience. So we will use all those tools to make sure that that is accessible. And folks have questions. This is why I keep saying is that we'll continue to refine even after we've gone final and posted, because I guarantee you somebody's going to say to us, I read this a little bit differently, and then we'll go back and say maybe there's a way for a word change or something there that we'll continue to do. So we will absolutely do that. Going back to the previous question, so we're talking about grades 9 through 12 for this upcoming year. I keep reminding us of that as when these standards will be really important for what folks are doing. And I think Irene is beginning to hear from districts that are already thinking about this, and you probably have too. So hence the eagerness to get the standards out and then to start with our communication plan and answer as many questions as we can, friend. But point well taken. Everybody's inboxes are full and overflowing, and documents. We try to make sure that the documents are not overwhelmingly lengthy, and that's why we're going to look to our designer here to do some nifty kind of things to make sure it's accessible and people can actually carve out and take a look and work with it as best they can. So that's appreciated.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, Commissioner, I don't see any other hands up. We could close this portion of our meeting out and know that we're going to follow up with the standards document for your review, and we can move into the next portion of our meeting to get into the work groups if you'd like.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, I will go ahead and do this. Bear with me.
So while you're doing that, Maddie's going to break us out into the two groups that we've signed up for, because we want to get at the goals and objectives, task and purpose of the commission. And Ajit and I will facilitate, and we have some questions to consider.
Irene and Ajit, I'm going to throw this over to you for telling us what happened in our breakout rooms and getting us to our endpoint.
Go ahead, Irene. No, please.
Thank you, thank you. It was a tremendous discussion, so really appreciate that time to have that type of discussion. I'm going to share a slide where we tried to capture our thoughts, and really anyone from my group, please jump in. But I think what really helped frame is coming back to what is the purpose of creating a K-12 statewide remote learning school. So what's our why? And the ask, and we threw down some ideas, but maybe this is a next agenda item perhaps of really understanding and unpacking what is the why of doing this. At the same time though, we created some potential focus groups, and we have one that could be planned pretty quickly, is talking with district leadership and understanding more about what challenges will a statewide remote learning school solve, and really seeking to understand that challenge that districts currently have. So you can see here from the notes, a summary of our conversation. So some good questions of practice, but again, an ask to truly understand the why of this work. Ajit?
Thanks, Irene. We had a robust conversation as well. I think we were probably more on the 9 through 12 policy and the guidance that we discussed, because those are more immediate implications, while also sort of thinking about what that would do, what are some of the supply and demand type forces that would be in play with a locally driven 9-12 option, a lot of the challenges for a really small district to stand something up like this, a fully robust option. What would participating with other districts mean? What about, would this cost additional tuition? What does that mean for me? Is there capacity if they were to offer something? And then, how much capacity will be there? And so we talk a lot about those types of challenges with it, with some of the members urging us to be forward thinking, and think towards the future, with a statewide remote school would be in play. And also making sure that we don't have any sort of limits in the guidance, in the standards and guidance, especially for students on a PPT, and being clear that when students have an IEP and the PPT recommends or PPT requires X, that be implemented without any questions and without any challenges and additional justifications having to be made. So I think we'll just make that explicit in our guidance as well. And for a small district, the challenge of offering something in person and remote could be really difficult. Again, just coming back to the staffing capacity. And I think we all agreed that the statewide remote learning option will be the leveler in some ways, will be the one that ensures equity in a locally driven, locally run environment where every district with capacity or interest might be able to start something up, could cause, differential capacity across districts, as it does now with what we see in terms of offerings, and that the statewide remote school would actually be a big leveler. So lots of discussion, lots of good discussion as usual. So thank you, Irene, and thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. And I imagine this conversation will continue, but I so appreciate everybody's voice and perspective in the space. I always like to call for any other thoughts or ideas as we're wrapping up. Our next meeting is March 21st. 1 to 2:30. So hopefully that is on your calendar. At that point, we will go back to, Irene is so good at keeping us on time, but our timeline that we're tracking where we're headed and what we've done and where we still need to go, and how we need to do that together. So that is our next meeting, which is still virtual meeting. But any final thoughts? Just points that you would like to make, things we need to keep in mind as we go forward. Feedback on our process today. We want to make sure that you're finding these very well planned and productive as we're working towards our goal. So just leaving that space for a couple of minutes here to get that from you would be great. Thoughts, feedback, comments as we're moving forward.
I'll say that I appreciate the mindfulness of the schedule, and I appreciate Irene's focus in our groups, because it's easy for us and we seem to deviate occasionally. But Irene, I appreciate your effort and your ability to kind of pull us back into the mindset where we need to be. So I appreciate that. But yes, I mean, I think a lot of time and energy goes in to making sure our time is used well. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Kate. Very much appreciated. Other thoughts from the group? All right, so wrapping up, in a few minutes after we get done, watch your mailbox because something will be landed there. And again, we know how busy everyone is, but we will ask you to get back to us ASAP so we can move to the next point and know that this is not the end by no stretch of the imagination, that we will, I'm sure we'll find ways to continue to tweak as we go forward, but all the constituents, our districts and or policymakers, folks are asking for this document, so we want to make sure that we get it out there and in a timely way as possible. So with that, 2:28, I'm actually giving you 2 minutes back. So whatever you can do with 2 minutes and enjoying the rest of the Valentine's Day. Hopefully you've got dinner or whatever you've got planned. Please enjoy, and thank you so much for everything that you're doing together with us every day for all our kids and our staff and families. So with that, be well until next time.
Thank you. Bye.